Hello, lovelies. I'm here for a sneaky extra one, which is not going to be anywhere near as long as the one that Ruffle and I did on Saturday, which I think we were coming in close to like 6 hours, 5 hours 45, something like that. But let me turn my loading screen off. Myra and some others were doing a lot of hustling on the last stream for me, very kindly trying to get my follower count up, because this is now my fifth stream, and and we doubled our followers last time, so I am now so close to affiliate. I'm going to get channel points and exciting sound emotes very, very soon. But in order to get it, I have to do one extra stream this week, or I fall back out of my 30-day window. So you haven't recovered yet, Ruffle. It was a long one. It was unexpectedly long, but we should have known, really, because anytime I go shopping in Wurm, it is always the best part of a day, and we tried to squeeze it into an evening. So I'd say lessons learned, but absolutely no lessons learned. Oh, this is so that Scott Buckley track, that's one of the ones that he's made on stream, is it? That's really cool. I've only just started watching his streams. I found his music before I found his streams, but I shall have to go hunt it down because that's a nice one, and I really like his whole library catalogue. Scott Buckley is the composer who wrote that piece of music, and in fact all of the music that I use for my intros. So well, I will go and find out at some point, Bung, because that sounds good fun. So anyway, so this is not going to be a terribly long one because it's a Monday night and I've had a long working day, but I thought, since I needed to go and feed the animals at the zoo anyway, I'm actually on Eshri today instead of Crim. So for anybody who was here in time for the title screen, you'll have seen I had a different tune on there as well. Eshri is my faux priest, and I end up talking to people quite a lot of different people across the years about keeping animals on any kind of a scale in Wurm, which certainly presents its own challenges, particularly when you've got aggressive animals in the mix. And one of the many things that I have to do with the 400 plus creatures that I have on this wildlife park, many of which are aggressive, is hand feed a lot of them. So it was feeding time at the zoo, and I thought this might be a good opportunity to stream it and just witter a little bit about keeping animals in Wurm, how to manage aggressive animals if you haven't got a faux priest, why you might want a faux priest if you keep anything other than sort of farm animals and passives and that kind of stuff. But because this is not one of my Saturday night streams, it was sort of a bit kind of spur of the moment. I clocked off work at 6 o'clock and I was like, oh, I could do that. I can prep in time. I can prep in 2 hours. It'll be fine. I guess we're going to see if it was fine. But anyway, so for anyone who's not familiar with me or my deed, we are on Brambleheim on Release, which is just over on the Eastern Peninsula here. Brambleheim spans a little bit over a tile, kind of north to south here, but it doesn't go all the way back across the land. We've got Titch's Memorial just behind me over here, and various neighbours all around and about.
Yes.
Thanks for the follow, Willow. And in fact, Willow is a neighbour of mine living not too far away from here. So we're on the Southern Freedom Isles at Brambleheim on Release, and my main character that most of you will know me as, if you know me at all in game, is Crimson Earth. But today we are doing it exclusively on Eshri, because Eshri's the one that collects the animals, and Eshri's absolutely the one that feeds them. Most of them would bite Crim's arm off. So I'm going to load up with some stuff, because I've got... hello, Dutchinator. Wonderful to see you back. Have you yet downloaded Wurm and logged in and made a character? This is going to be a different kind of a stream than the last one you saw, Dutchinator. This time we are doing a bit of wildlife park management, animal husbandry. You've made a character. Brilliant. As Ruffle says, I mean, Brambleheim is my main deed, but it is also open to the public. So the upper village where I live with all of my houses and things, I don't know that all of the buildings are open, but the portcullises, the gates into the perimeter, all are. Anybody can cross through Brambleheim. But about 75% of this deed, everything south of my upper village, is all wildlife park, and it is open to everybody. And it has, at last count, somewhere between 350 and 400 GM named creature spawns, all with different names. There's a lot of champs thrown in there as well. That so it does. Good spot. I can do something about that. See, you could have just ridden over and saved me from myself, Ruffle. We are not adventuring with Ruffle today. That's what you get for speed streaming. I could feed you to the animals. I haven't got Calvert here to feed to Crocs, but I could absolutely feed you to something. Your animal of choice. I've forgotten where I was going before that now. But yeah, so this will be very different again. It will be different again, Bun. It's gonna hopefully be a nice chill one. Yes, so about 75% of this deed, is quite a big deed, is actually Wildlife Park, which I consider public wildlife park, with GM named spawns. It's got a big petting zoo. I'll talk you through all of those bits as we go. But right now, we are on the upper deed. I will Ruffle make for a poor morsel. She might be a bit chewy. The crabs that have her. So we're on the upper bit of. Gosh, that's shaking a bit. We're on the upper bit of Brambleheim, so this is kind of like my main village. This is my home from home, and has been so since about 2019, which is when I first started building this, and it was just a teeny tiny little village then. But I do keep some animals up here. These are not strictly wildlife park residents. These are more like pets. But these are too. There are some special ones up here too, like my champ rooster of fame, magnificent beast. And he's got a lady friend somewhere around here. She's probably hiding in an oak tree. Oh, no, that's a champ pheasant, Prince Fancy Pants. Where? Ah, there she is. We've got Queenie over there, and her ladyship. So that's what champion birds look like if you've never seen them before in game. The champion pheasants are becoming more widely available because we can breed those, but the champion chicken and the champion rooster, those are rarer because they can't be bred, so we can't proliferate them. And we don't know why they can't be bred, because you can lead and breed pheasants. It's not a bird thing. I imagine it's just something to do with I don't know, a legacy of when they were introduced to the game. Perhaps Willow can tell us. Hello, Madoon. You're making a mallet right now, Dutchinator. Are you on guidance, doing your first quests? There's Madoon is quite right. If you want to get started, there is a champion pheasant for sale at the Pool's Closed Market on release. We spent a little bit of time a few months ago on guidance, Dutchinator, Calvert and I, doing kind of the newbie experience on brand new toons. We had a lot of fun there, and I hope you do too. There's a good community of people around who will be very, very supportive, and it's always lovely to have new people in the game. So I'm really glad that you came back. Wolfmeyer, probably an egg thing, which came first. Very good. Dutchinator joined us on our last stream on Saturday as a brand new person considering Wurm, and we managed to sell them on it. So now they're making a character, and have set up on guidance. What's your name in game, Dutchinator? Oh, there they come. Look at them all. So I don't use pet bowls everywhere in the zoo, but I do use it for most pens of size. Some of the bigger animals don't have them, but for things like chooks for birds and things. Cheesed to meet you. Oh no, that's a pun. We've got another punner. Bun, you're in good company. Oh my goodness. How many did I drop in there? 20? They're down to 1. So chickens eat me out of house and home. The only thing that eats more than my chickens are my pigs. We're just going to pop a few more in there because for anybody who is relatively new to keeping animals, or even who has been keeping animals for a while but hasn't actually sort of spent much time trying to figure out the mechanics, animals feed while there are toons in local, and I don't mean in local range in game as in the bigger local at which you can see and speak to people, but when they have got toons that are active nearby. And I don't know exactly how many tiles it is. We did try and figure it out at one point. But basically, if you keep creatures that don't graze, like chickens or like aggressive animals, and you keep them in the area where you tend to live and work, you will need to feed them more, because all of the time you are in the area nearby, they will eat, and then a little while later they will get hungry and they will eat again. And that trips quite a lot of people up, because if they've spent a lot of time away from deed, maybe feeding their animals once a day, and that's been fine, and then they start spending a lot more time at their deeds, maybe like for event season, for example, during Halloween or Christmas, suddenly they might find that a lot of their animals are starving and they don't know why, and it's because their feeding rate changes. You've got your chickens behind your workshop, Bun. I know. You should move them away. I mean, I've got my chickens right outside my home, so I have to feed these things constantly. But the reason I have them right outside my home is because they bring me so much joy. I like looking at them. I want to be looking at them all the time. Every time I walk out of my house and I see those champion chooks, I'm like, I love those. So the price that I pay for have I got any meat eaters up here at the moment? I don't think I have. So the price that I pay for wanting to get to see my chooks all the time is that I am feeding them constantly while I'm working on the deed. And obviously I don't need a faux priest for this, because they are passives. They wouldn't attack my main character either. But a lot of the creatures that we are going to go and see once we get the other side of the petting zoo, they are aggressive. So that's why Eshri is the one who does the feeding. And I've got a couple of Christmas spawns in here. The reason that they are in pens up here instead of down in the petting zoo, which we're going to go to a little bit later, is because they are not yet cared for. So these ones are waiting for me to care slot up a bunch of alts. I have an obscene number of alts. They are not all active most of the time. But I have, across the years, in order to care for all of those hundreds of creatures that I keep here, trained a lot of alts up to Animal Husbandry 30, which gets them 4 care slots, because every character starts with 1 for free, and then you get an extra care slot at every 10 Animal Husbandry you gain. And the road up to 20 is relatively fast. If you're using good Kavasi and you've got your sleep bonus full, you can do it in about 2 hours. If you've got a very, very big flock of sheep, you can do it even quicker than that. I've got a few dozen sheep, and I reckon it takes me about 2.5 hours per toon. To get it up to 30, that takes a little bit longer. I tend to have to do that in 2 rounds. But so we've got a black adolescent fake reindeer here, which Finn very kindly snagged for me when he saw those wandering all over his island before they all got killed. I did also, he also gave me some others, some spares, some white ones, which at least one of those has gone into Little Venice. I'm pretty sure I've already moved them over. Yeah, I have. So if you are interested in GM named spawns, assuming they haven't gone yet, I haven't logged in and checked today, but there are some for free in the pens at Little Venice. Which is just up from Brambleheim. Little Venice is up here at J23. It's my marketplace. But the animal market bit of it is, at the moment, has a bunch of locked pens with more named GM spawns, aggressive ones, that I have yet to bring back to Brambleheim. But it also has a bunch of passives in there, which are, they've got signs in there saying free to a good home, and anybody is welcome to come and get one of those. Ooh, that's interesting. It looks like Ruffle, what were they called? They weren't snowflakes. The unicorns that Fairy found were foals. And I did wonder if that was going to be the case. So here's another little bit of trivia for you. When you're looking at GM named spawns and thinking that you might want to take them home because they've got cool names, there are a few creatures in the game, mostly passives, which have a different name when they are teeny tiny babies. And if the name changes between their youngest version and their grown-up version, like, for example, horses and unicorns start as foals and then become horses or unicorns. So if their creature name changes, they won't retain their GM name. which means if you're at something like an Impalong and a GM spawns a load of adorable little fluffy chicks called something cute, lovely as they are, they will not keep their names when they grow up. Dancer, that was it. It was a dancer. So now I just have a young unicorn, but that's okay. So that happens with horses. It doesn't happen with pigs, but it does happen with, for example, lambs, which become sheep and rams. It happens with calves, which become cows and bulls. It doesn't only happen to the ones that have different names for the male and female when they grow up, but that is usually a good indicator that the name will change, because horses have the same name regardless. I think there's probably some others, which will probably occur to me as we go round, but most of the aggressive ones keep the same name as they grow up. It's usually the passives that it applies to. So chickens, horses, unicorns. I imagine, although I've not bred them in a long time, that hellies are baby hellies foals. Does anybody know who breeds them? Baby bison are just baby bison though, so they're good. They'll keep their names. Wolfmeyer, you found a donkey called Dancer. Not seen any of the other reindeer named ones. No, I haven't seen any others of Santa's reindeer this year except for Rudolph's. There were some Rudolph beefalo that were spawned outside Isert on Exodus, and probably in some other places, because I think there were quite a few duplicate spawns this year. Chicks take their name from the egg. Really? What, so if you rename an egg and that egg turns into a chick, the chick then takes that name, but then when the chick grows into a hen or a rooster, presumably it then loses it again, or does it keep it? Be an interesting experiment if so forth. So you rename the egg and the chick gets the name, but does the hen or the rooster keep it, or does it lose it in the same way that GM spawns, when they're spawned as babies, lose it? Kind of want to know now. New experiment. No, they don't lose it. Oh, no, they lose it. Damn it. I thought I just found a whole exciting new avenue of inquiry. Right. Less talking for a minute, more concentrating. What am I going to feed next? Yes, it sounds like you would get a chick called Satan spawn, my dune. But it wouldn't stay that for long. Chicks do grow up quite fast. I've got a chicken coop here, as you can see, but if you think that chickens eat a lot when they are roaming free, where you can see them, they eat twice as much in chicken coops, which is why in practice you very, very rarely see someone actually with their chickens in a chicken coop. They just end up busting out of them super easily. I don't think... let's have that. They're mostly going to be meat eaters when we go down to the lower deed. So they've still got some left in their bowl. They're good. Is it possible to go out there and build a house anywhere? Yes, pretty much. So Wurm is about as sandboxy games go. It's not like there are zoned areas, but there are deeds. So players can pay to get a small portion of land that is theirs that they control the permissions on. That is a deed. So this is a deed, for example. That's what allows you to have a lot of extra sort of permissions and controls over who can do what things on your land. There are also deeds that are effectively owned by GMs or owned by the games. Those are starter towns. So there is at least one on every server. Some bigger servers have a few more. But outside of deeds, and deeds can be put anywhere, outside of deeds, the land is all free for anybody. You can build on it with or without a deed. It's just without the protections of a deed with more than 30 days upkeep, buildings and possessions and things will take damage out in the wild, whereas once you put a deed down, your buildings get protection, and so do some of your items. Hi memers, good to see you. So but the whole of the land on all of the servers, all of that is free. There's no kind of zoned areas where you can't build, except for where somebody has already got a deed of their own, and you can't overlap with somebody else's deed. You can't butt right up against it, There is a minimum 5-tile perimeter with a buffer zone of, I think, 1 or 2 tiles to stop people pushing right up against one another, and also to stop people using deeds to prevent access through the land. But all of the land can be terraformed, can be deeded, can be built on if it's not deeded. Wurm is properly sandboxy. You're tagging in memers while you go and eat. So memers, and for anybody else who's joined recently, this is going to be quite a little stream. It's not going to be as long as the last couple of ones, but it's feeding time at the zoo on Brambleheim. They still haven't eaten theirs. Good, so they've still got a bit left. And because I manage a very, very large wildlife park on my main deed, with a lot of, what did we say, 350 to 400 named GM spawns on it, a lot of them aggressive. Keeping those animals fed and maintained is a whole thing in itself. This is probably one of my biggest chores, if you want to call it a chore, in Wurm. These little pens down here, these are also creatures waiting. There aren't too many of them now because I've cared for most of them. These are creatures waiting to be cared for, which is why they are in little temporary pens instead of moved over to the big animal exhibits, which we're going to go and see in a bit. So we've got a figgy pudding there, which Bon and Myra gave me a tip off about the other day, so I went and picked up one of those from Delhi. We've got a Sebastian over there, which I'm pretty sure came out of an arena at an Impelong. It's not Saturday already, Moomin, but you know what? Myra and everybody else in chat did such good work on Saturday when Ruffle and I were streaming, going and encouraging more people to come and follow, so that I could get towards 50 followers, so that I could get channel points and get you all some fun things to put in the game. And yes. Thank you for the follow, AJ. And we got to 50 followers a few hours after that stream finished, which was wonderful, which means that I have almost hit thank you, Cullen. Which means that I have almost hit the criteria for affiliate status, but one more thing I needed was to stream for a 7th day in this 30-day window. So when I finished work, literally sort of like 3.5 hours ago, I was like, I could stream on a Monday night. I could do that. Thanks, Moomin. I mean, it's been a lot of you guys doing that work for me, because we know I'm poor at self-promotion. So I think these ones are all empty. But I am very grateful for all the love and support, and you folks have been very, very supportive. So I'm hitting my final criteria tonight to be eligible for affiliate by doing another stream before my 30-day window runs out. So those were the temporary pens. I've got a grazing pen over here, which is mostly where my donkeys and things live. And speaking of which, I'm going to go and pick up a donkey, because this park is quite big. And if Eshri encounters a troll, being a squishy little faux priest, she's going to be running away. So we're going to get our lamps turning on soon. It's getting late, which is good. Lovely sunset happening over there. I really like the park lit up at night, actually, so I think we're going to be in for a treat when the rest of the lamps start lighting up. I'm pretty much there, memers. I've got enough followers now, and I've met all of the other criteria except for the 7th day of streaming in 30 days. So that has sort of motivated me to go and stream on a weeknight and just sort of see how it goes. There we go, and the rest of the lamps have just lit up. And I don't know what's happening with it. I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but my lamps now are staggered in the way that they light up. So some of them light up just a few minutes sooner than the others at night time. Well done, Helen. You finished the first quest. Are you on guidance 2? We got 2 new players. It's brilliant if so. Oh, I'm on a donkey. I was wondering why I wasn't moving the way I expected to, and it's because I'm on a donkey. So that's the Brambleheim main deed up there. You're besides touch. Okay. Very good. That's the main deed up there, and then this is my warehouse docks area, and then everything from pretty much here onwards, all the way up to over this hill, down the other side, and to the canal is Brambleheim Wildlife Park. So almost anywhere you approach from, there will be big "Welcome to Brambleheim" gatehouses like this. There's a couple of places that there aren't. Like, for example, I haven't yet built one here, but I expanded the park. Look at going backwards on my donkey. But I've expanded the park. The park actually now goes all the way up to the highway here, and we are on the highway for anybody who wants to come and find us by road. Who is the Dutchinator here? In Wurm. He told us a little bit earlier, Dutchinator. What was it? It was a pun. I remember it was a pun. Oh, cheesed to meet you, apparently. For those of you that like puns. I only like animal puns. And I do also quite enjoy being indignant about puns, so I tolerate them. But only in small quantities. So this is the highway that runs north-south all the way up the Eastern Peninsula, up here. So you can come and find us on the highway. But I expanded Brambleheim backwards, so actually it now stretches up to pretty much the highway. Would help if I knew where my donkey was facing. So there you go, and now we're back in Brambleheim. And this is one of the things that was actually killing me when they first brought reindeer in and had them spawning on deed, because this deed is currently all completely open to the outside, and my deed ratio is tricky at the best of times. I suddenly got a load of reindeer down and spawning on my deed. But in fairness, I have this problem even when it's not Christmas season with reindeer everywhere, because I swear I've got this beautiful big woodland hillside behind me, and I swear gravity affects animals. They all just seem to roll down the hillside and onto my deed. I am forever leading things off and up and away to try and protect my deed ratio. But yeah, so there will be another one of those big gatehouses here at this entrance too. And there'll be a slightly smaller one at the warehouse docks side entrance over there. But for the most part, on most of the approaches, you'll see these big gateways. There's another one over there. There's some up there, which sort of herald the various entrances to the Brambleheim Wildlife Park. That's why you put fences and hedges around your deed. Well, I mean, I do have a plan to box it in, but this deed, this deed is, I think, I want to say something like 120 tiles long, and since I expanded backwards, where are we? 125 tiles long, and since I expanded backwards, I have not yet had a chance to secure the bigger perimeter. And I had been reluctant to secure a perimeter prior to this because Brambleheim is always growing. It often grows just a few tiles at a time as I need to massage my deed ratio to fit more things in. So building perimeter fences in any direction that I was expanding and still expanding was always going to be a bit of a folly, because I'd be forever knocking them down and redoing them. So the bit of the wildlife park that we are in now, I didn't pick up anywhere near enough veggies, so I'm just going to go and do that. This is what I call the petting zoo. So these creatures, these are all GM named spawns, so this is part of the wildlife park, but these are all the passives that you can train animal husbandry on, basically. So we've got several flocks of sheep scattered all over here, and sheep are the best animal husbandry gain you can get in the game, because shearing sheep is better gains than pretty much anything else. But you can groom everything in the petting zoo. All of the gates are open to people from the Freedom Isles, so you can come and go freely, come and groom things here, work your way around them. It takes more than an hour to work your way around all of the passives, grooming them, and an hour is the refresh point, roughly. So something will become groomable again after an hour. So you can just keep going round and round and round if you care to. I can't normally bear to do more than one round at a time. I do an awful lot of animal husbandry grinding to get all of those care slots. But so everything can be groomed. The chickens can be groomed. The bison, they've got a load of bison over there, which I'll go and show you in a minute. All of the bison can be groomed, all of the sheep, all of the cows. There are pigs just on the other side of here. Those can be groomed. The dogs technically can be groomed, but I can't remember whether or not I've made these pens accessible. Wouldn't be very time efficient, because you'd be going in and out of pens all the time, whereas these ones are all specifically designed for you to be able to line up 2 or 3 to do at a time. and the sheep can be shorn. And if you're doing dairy making, the cows can, of course, be milked. So they're still doing okay for food. So this is the chook pens just here. We've got a variety of chickens and roosters from across the years. Little cluck of Horus there. A friend-along fowl, that's from one of the annual impalongs. For anybody who didn't know, roosters come in multiple colours. As do your chickens. But in the wild, you'll mostly find white chickens and brown roosters. Got a fried steak, chicken ? A fur mark 3.0. That must have been a Christmas one year, of 4 calling birds. And an also not a cow over there. So we've got 2 pens of GM named chickens. There are quite a lot of them. And they do not graze. You would think they would, but they don't. They have to be hand fed. The sheep, thankfully, take care of themselves. So these babies will all just graze all day. I don't have to feed them, which is brilliant. Which is why they're my favourites. I will never turn down GM spawned sheep with names that I don't already have, because they are just so useful. So we've got several pens of sheep. Some forageables there, which I might have to take out later because that's quite large. Then down here, you can very quickly see what kind of creatures GMs favour when they're spawning things in arenas, which is where a lot of these have come from, because I have just one GM named pony, only one I've ever seen. And I did once, I think it was probably my first Christmas, I saw GM named hell horses spawned in the wild. They were called Cherry something. It was several years ago, and I thought I wasn't really kitted out at the time to take hell horses back because they would just turn around and bite me. I didn't have Eshri at the time, so I left them there, and I was like, oh, there'll be other GM named hell horses one day. And have I found one since? No. Helen, which server is best for new players? As Bun says, it's a difficult question. I mean, the community has kind of a different vibe on every server. There is space on every server, depending on whether you want a quieter community with a little bit more space, or whether you want a really active community. That might impact the kind of server that you want to go for. But all of the servers have good communities. All of the servers have space still to deed, including coastal space, which tends to be the ones that get snapped up fastest, that most people want. You're not helping, Madune. The smiley face does not help. Madune has been in game for so long. You've got to take everything that they say with a pinch of salt. Because they think we are all wretched hives of scum and villainy. I'm not even in my pirate Crim outfit. But there's a couple of donkeys here. So I've had like 2 donkeys over the years and 1 pony. But everything else in terms of passives, it's been sort of cows and sheep, occasionally chickens. Those are a less common spawn. So we've got cows aplenty. We've got a catapult ammo there. Also fluffy, less bitey, a buttercup. Buttermilk over there. Got some bulls in here as well. A holy cow. As you do. Yeah, and as Moomin says, I mean, spend a little bit of time on guidance, get a feel for it, and maybe talk to some other players on the forums or in Global or anything like that about, ask people about their servers, ask people to recommend servers. A lot of new players end up going to the Northern Freedom Isles cluster. Some come to the Southern Freedom Isles. The Southern Freedom Isles servers have been around a lot longer, which means they tend to have a larger majority of long-term, very experienced players on them, but a lot of long-term Wormians did migrate to the Northern Freedom Isles when it opened, so you'll find experienced players on both. But because the Northern Freedom Isles servers are newer, there is arguably more untouched land, although these days I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case. They are certainly the busier servers, in particular Cadence and Harmony are 2 of the busiest servers. So if you want a very populated freedom chat and neighbours and things like that, go for one of the busier ones. Thanks, Bun. Bun's going to take over and give you some more guidance in chat. That's what I keep you around for. So we've got a whipped cream there. So yeah, so there's lots of cows. The cows do not need feeding, thank goodness. The pigs, however, pigs do not graze, and pigs eat a lot of a lot. So we've got to feed the piggies. We've got a piglet, a spam, a Luna slow roast. There's a lot of puns in the pig pens. We've got a star-crossed bacon over there and a spooky. A lot of creatures in Wurm are omnivores, and pigs are one of them. Crabs too. I've been feeding crabs meat for years, and then I realised that they could also eat veggies. But some can only eat meat or vegetables, and when I say vegetables, things that can eat vegetables can also eat herbs and nuts. They just can't eat spices, but sort of the vegetarian foods, if you like. Gonna drop 33 meat there and see how much of it goes, because it's been a while since I, at least a week since I last came by and fed these. And I don't know how hungry they are, but we're about to find out. Send an invoice button. Might be alright. Looks like they only want to eat one each. Now, when you're lucky and you're keeping your animals well maintained, usually they will only eat one thing at a time, but if they have had several sort of time cycles pass where there has been somebody in local and they've wanted to eat and there hasn't been anything to eat, they will start to get hungrier and hungrier, and you'll know when they're in that state, because when you put food down, sometimes they will eat 4, 5, 6 at a time in one fell swoop. And if they're in that state for too long, they will lose a fat layer. So these are all showing as nice and fat, which is what we like. If you get ones that don't have fat, like that one, Albertine swine, he's probably just normal, but you can always examine them and it will tell you sort of where they are on the scale. So he's extremely well nourished. He's only lost one fat layer. But you want to, if you're trying to keep animals, you want to try and get them all up to fat, ideally, which means putting in a little bit of time being in their local, feeding them consistently and fattening them up. That will give them better protection against starving further down the line. Because when they drop a fat layer, if they are already not very fat and they drop down to starving, that's when you are likely to lose them. Because creatures can die of starvation even if they're cared for. That's a thing I see semi-regularly in help chat and occasionally on the forums, where somebody's got a cared-for animal that has died and they're baffled as to why it has died. And there are a few things that can kill cared-for animals, but caring for them prevents them dying from old age, but it doesn't prevent them dying from starvation. And it doesn't prevent them dying if they are pregnant and they miscarry. Sometimes they can die then, particularly if your deed ratio is below 15, which is the magic number. And mine is often dangerous, so mine might not be great at the moment. Let's have a look. 15.13, so mine is just about in the safety zone at the moment. But then the pigs will feast off their fallen comrades. Yes, they will. Pigs will graze off any body around them. But we don't want that. We don't want that. On the rare occasion I lose an animal at the zoo, it gets buried properly with a gravestone. We've got a few of them up here. These are creatures which sadly have died at the zoo. Sometimes, more often than not, they are not ones that have died in pens through neglect, but it's where I have brought too many things home from the implong and not managed to care for them all in time. I've got a few up here, but these are not creatures that died in my zoo. These are all GM. These are all GMs, basically. I've got a champion Pomona there, an old angry Vayu. We've got a Belisama there. These three between them spawned probably about 70% of the creatures in this zoo across various events over the past 5 years. And then we've got Aeon over here, Astarte, Teresa. I thought I had a Broca one, but evidently not. So having just gone in and out of here, I'm going to go back in. But this is the cat chateau. This is not part of the petting zoo. These will bite. We can now, since the animal husbandry update. You fed your pigs a dead guard. Yeah, one bite and any corpse goes. Since the animal husbandry update, and we got new traits, it is now possible to breed a rare trait into aggressive mobs, which makes them permanently tame. And some people are trying to do that for cats, because a lot of us would like to have house cats that we didn't keep accidentally almost killing. But none of these are they. These are all aggressive, bitey cats, and pretty much most cats that you come across anywhere in the wild, or indeed often on people's deeds, will be bitey cats. So this is not part of the petting zoo, but the gates also do not open for anybody else. So you shouldn't be able to accidentally wander in here. This used to be a church. If you were looking at that building and thinking, oh, that looks like a church, it's because it was, and I converted it into a cat chateau when I no longer needed to train up any more priests. Could you make a dark animal lab dungeon below the zoo? I could, if this part of the zoo were not at water level. So you can keep animals underground. You can't grow grass underground. So you couldn't. I mean, you could keep grazers down there, but it would be a very inefficient way to do it, because you would have to be hand feeding them. And one of the good things about grazers is you don't have to hand feed them. But yeah, assuming you are not at the water level, you can absolutely open up a mine, assuming there is enough rock layer beneath you before you hit water, and keep animals underground. People often do keep aggressive mobs underground that have to be hand-fed anyway. These cats, because they're small, sometimes they hide. So we've got a raging Christmas cat here. That's a new one. There you go. There's one hiding in a wall over there. Miracle of Christmas. And I suppose it's also worth saying that the creatures that I keep in this zoo just got bison butts poking through the wall. The creatures that I keep in this zoo are only the ones that can be tamed or charmed. But charmed with a faux priest, that is. But people with mag priests can dominate monsters, certain kinds of monsters in game, rather than creatures. So there isn't an overlap. I don't think there is an overlap between what you can charm and what you can dominate. So if you see people who are keeping things like hell scorpiuses, they will be using a mag priest to manage those. Whereas anything that is a natural creature, even if it's of unnatural size for the most part, like champion rats, which are gigantic, those are creatures. Those can be tamed. Can be tamed by a toon. They can be charmed by a faux priest. Not so though of sort of insects and some reptiles. So you can't charm like anacondas. You can't charm or tame spiders. You can tame and charm crocs, as we know. I occasionally do like to threaten to feed people to my crocs in my croc pens. Ooh, that went fast. But we'll get to the crocs at the end. They're right down the other end. Might be a time to find a high point on a map and start turning a mountain into an animal dungeon. I mean, you'll spend a lot of time grinding mining skill, but it's good to have a project to grind it on. Like, I have seen some epic-sized underground deeds, with and without animals. Ooh, these cats are hungry. Look, that bowl's empty again already. We love lasagna. That's because there's a Garfield somewhere in this pen. Don't know if Garfield's got a friend yet. Has he? Yes, we got pss, 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 pss in this one, and there's Garfield just over there. So clearly these cats have tried to eat and not had any food to eat a few times, because they are wolfing down what's going in their pen. You're looking at Xanadu. Xanadu's got a lot of lovely terrain. It is slow to travel across by boat if you're anywhere further in than the coast, but since they put portals in game, if you stay relatively close to a start town area, it is now much easier to travel to and from Xanadu, because you can portal about. But Xanadu is very, very big, and don't underestimate the amount of time it takes to sail across it. So if when you're going looking for somewhere to stay on Xanadu, you could portal straight in. But before you pop down a deed, you might want to find a little bit of coast, build yourself a canoe, or better yet, a rowing boat, and take a little bit of time sailing around Xanadu, because you really don't get a sense of the scale of it until you try and actually travel some distance across it. And you just want to make sure that you're kind of aware of that scale before you pick the place on Xanadu that you want to settle. Took you 5 hours. The first time I sailed across Xanadu was before we had plot course, when you had to cross Xanadu to get from Release or Pristine to any of the other servers. And I don't think it took me 5 hours, but it certainly took me a good couple of hours just to cross Xanadu in a sailboat. I think I was lucky and I was not travelling in a light breeze, because light breezes are the bane of my life. So over here we've got some doggos, all friendly little puppers. These ones do not bite, they are passive. They can be tamed, they can be charmed. So that's Lycani, best chum's chum. Then over here we've got Santa's little helper. Let's give him some food. Dogs also do eat quite a lot. Rats as well. My rats always seem to be hungry. There are certain kinds of creatures, and I don't know if it's set differently for different creatures. Is there an influx of new players on Xanadu? That's nice. Some kinds of creatures do seem to eat more often than others, and I don't know. It's hard to tell if it's just where I've placed them in the zoo, but I don't think so. Like over time, I seem to be noticing a trend of certain creatures wherever I put them, just eating a bit more than others. See you later, Dutchinator. Glad that you're in Wurm and having a good time here. Where's this one hiding? Probably going to be tucked into a wall somewhere. What's in this pen? This will be a Fido. All of these pens, by the way, have or should have signs outside telling you what's in them. It's for me as much as anything, so that every so often I go around and do a check and just make sure I do still have all of the creatures I'm supposed to have. But it's also quite nice if you come and just wander around the park as an experience to visit the wildlife park. You can see what's meant to be in every pen. So let's pop some in that bowl. This corner one here I think has got 3 doggos in it at the moment, because I'm now starting to get to the point where they are doubling up, or in this case tripling up. So we've got a good little boy there, or LT boy, which means that it was spawned so that people could could kill it in an arena in order to get some health back with life transfer, which is why that one got hurried out as soon as possible. We've got a bestest friend over there. AJ. Yeah. Oh, I see, AJ. So that's you, is it? Nice. It's good to put a Twitch name to a Wurm name. Let's give that one some food as well. It probably doesn't need quite that much. So I have different rules of thumb for how much I will feed different kinds of creatures based on just time and experience. Dogs will always get at least 2 or 3 food per dog in their bowls, but I'll often hang around and see how much of it they eat, because if they're hungry they'll wolf through more. The bears get sort of one meat for every bear and a couple of spare, because they don't tend to eat as much. So that's the chickens, the dogs, we've done the pigs. What we haven't, I'll go and have a look at the beefalo, but those don't need feeding because those are grazers. But this is pretty much it for the petting zoo, and we've done the cat chateau, although they are not pettable. But they're my babies and I like to keep them close. I am a cat fan. I'm going to need a bit of... I'm going to need a bit of veg, and I'm going to need a bit of fish. So let's have that. And however much left of sage. Sage sardine. There are some vegetables which you might think you can feed to creatures, but that you can't. So omnivores or herbivores will eat nuts, for example, but they won't eat olives. They will eat camellia and oleander, the edible flowers, but they won't eat things like belladonna, even though you can make tea with belladonna. Belladonna is a poisonous plant. So it takes just a little bit of sort of time and practice figuring out which ones are edible. But for the most part, things that look like vegetables, look like leafy things or fruity things, those are all good. We've got a champion dolphin down here, which is not named, but he's just a champion. There's going to be a champion octopus here one day, but I haven't got to it yet. The only time I get those is when they're spawned for a mission, and most of them will be spawned, even though this is technically an ocean here, this is connected to the sea. It's not terribly deep in many places, so when a mission spawns champion creatures, it's not often they will spawn here. They'll often spawn on the outer coast, and it's a bit of a mission to get them all the way back here, the passives especially. This one, for example, this champion blue whale, this spawned somewhere just up there, which is not very far at all, and it took me about 2 hours to get it from there to here and safely back into a pen with the pen closed behind it so it couldn't swim back out. It was a bit of a mission. 2.5 hours. So bringing one from the outer coasts, because we're here, something that spawns in here I can bring it down, but if something spawns out here, no chance am I getting it back to Brambleheim. So that limits how quickly I can pick up ridiculously large champions, but we do have, and have had for a long time, this lovely champion blue whale here. Thanks, Bun, doing the good work over there. As Bun says, chat to people, ask them about it, see, like, ask people what they like about their servers, if they've got, like, if they can recommend servers, if there's any new communities springing up that are recruiting. There'll be recruiting villages on some servers that will take in new folk and teach them how to play, or just give them a bit of space while they find their feet. And some people do stay there long term. Some people just stay for a little while, figure out the game, and then sort of move on and start their own deed. We've got some seals over here, and seals are a little bit tricksy, only in as much as they won't eat meat and they won't eat vegetables. They will only eat fish. So if you're trying to keep seals, you either need to learn how to fish, or you just need to get yourself a fishing net and get yourself a lot of little tiddlers to feed your seals with. Otherwise you will have very sad seals looking at whatever else you put down for them, and they will not eat it. There we go, one of them's just eaten a sardine. The dolphins, though, you can feed them fish, but they will eat meat. And most things that will eat meat will also eat fish. It's just things that are fish eaters can only eat fish. Oh, you know what? I don't think I've ever seen that link. That's a really good resource to have. Overview of recruiting deeds. There's one on release, for example, Harvest Moon Lagoon, which is just up here. They've been taking in new players, and not new players, just players looking for a village for a very long time. So I don't know what time zone Ultra Dude is on, who is the sort of the I think he's the mayor of that, but he's certainly the one who runs that deed. But he tends to be advertising in the early hours for me, and I'm on GMT time. So, but I do see him advertising when it gets to sort of around midnight here. And there's communities like that on not necessarily all servers, but on a lot of servers. Just turn my donkey around again, haven't I? Hi, Ruffle, welcome back. And as I said, these do not need feeding. But we'll go and have a quick look at them anyway, because we've got a lot of ridiculously sized. These are what we call beefalo. It's not their official name, but in the early days when GM started spawning these, a lot of them were called beefalo or some variation on that theme, which is why we've got beef nog, we've got beefanly, we've got beefarius over there, we've got beef top toe, beefy bean, c'est le beef, and so on and so forth. So we tend to refer to them as beefalo or giant bison. And they are distinct from champion bison, which are also giant, even more giant. That is a champion bison. So if you thought the beefalo were big, go and take a look at a champion bison one day if you're able to find one. There aren't many of them about, but I'm sure there are people out there starting to breed them now. I only have a male, so I have not yet started breeding mine, but I would like to at some point when I get him a girlfriend. But the rest of these are all beefalo too, giant bison. I haven't fed my whale, so I am going to go and feed my whale. Whale eats meat. It will come into relative shallows to eat as well, so I can quite safely just drop food there. And whales are huge, but they are not aggressive. Did I only drop one? Twit. Let's try that again. Whales are huge, but they are not aggressive. If you encounter whales out in the wild, unless you attack them first, they're not going to harm you, even if they do their lovely little flippity flip, which if we watch for just a minute, I'm sure this one will do. They're not going to crash into your boat or anything. They are lovely passive creatures. Same with dolphins. It's a scam, though. They don't give you more meat or hide. Have you been out killing beefalo? Bun. Imagine a champion beefalo. No. I think the champion bison is big enough already. Come on, Mr. Whale. Do us a flippity flip. I probably could have picked a slightly better angle to watch him do a flippity flip from. If I try and just move slightly to the side, we'll get a better view side on when he does it. Yeah, the flip they do makes me so happy as well, and you can see it from a long way away. So from the upper deed, I've got balconies and things looking down over this deed, and you can see sort of his big tail flipping over in the background when he does his flippity flip. See, he keeps teasing. He keeps teasing. He'll do it. Is there a difference if you play from Steam or the official client? So I haven't played from Steam, but I think that if you want to play, a lot of people play with alts and sometimes with simultaneous alts, and I think that you can't do that through the Steam client, but maybe somebody else who knows a bit more about it can confirm. So if you're playing through the official client, you can have, assuming your PC can manage it, multiple clients open. So for example, I will often run my main tune on a big one like this, on a nice big high-res version, and I will have one or two of my priests or an alt who is training up doing care slots on a much smaller, what I would call scavenger mode version of it, and I'll have them all running at the same time, so you can flick between them. Some people don't like to play like that at all. They just want to focus on one client, one game instance at a time, and so for those people it shouldn't make any difference whether you do it on Steam or on the official client. But if you're somebody who might want to have alts or have priests that you run alongside your main, you want to go for the official client. Can do with a trick. Just catching up on chats. Oh, so there is a way to do it with Steam, but it's a bit of a pain. He's not playing ball. Oh, there he goes. Whee! Just as soon as I went and got in the way. Anyway, you can see them from quite a way away when they do that, and when he's hungry, he will be able to come and eat that meat, even though it's in the shallows. I'm once again going the wrong direction on my donkey, so I'm just going to turn back around. So this here, kind of the end of the beefalo, that's the end of the petting zoo. Although the whale is a passive, and the seal's a passive, and the dolphin is a passive, and they're not going to hurt you. You also can't pet them, you can't groom them, you can't do anything with them, so they're not strictly part of it. So that's about a third of the wildlife park right there. We've got another entrance way down here. Hi Barfoot, I'm sorry if I missed you coming in. Welcome to chat. We've got a couple of gorillas over here. One is a champ. I'm going to turn my UI back on. One of them is a champion gorilla, not a named one. There are a few unnamed champions here just because they're either unusual champions or they have sentimental value, but for the most part it's named GM spawns. And there is also one GM named one. There we go, we've got little 10 drummers drumming over there. So I have a princely sum of 2 gorillas, only one of which is named. And gorillas can't be tamed. They're a special kind of a passive mob. What have I? Tell you what, let's give them sage. They are omnivores, so they will eat vegetables or meats. Gorillas can't be tamed, so it's a little bit like the trick with getting the champion whale back here. In order to get that gorilla back onto my deed, and it was spawned, I think, somewhere. Where did I take it from? I think it was spawned somewhere over here, so I had quite a journey getting it back home, all the way across the map here. And the way you have to do it is you want to unequip your weapon, you want to attack it, i.e. to bait it into following you, and then you want to be moving away just out of reach so it keeps following you, because passive creatures will drop ag quite quickly. You don't have to get far away from them for them to stop attacking. So if you want to try and kite one home, you want to be not hurting it while you do it, which means ideally you want whatever tune you're on to have, if it has enchanted armor, to have web armor instead of Aura of Shared Pain. Because those are the two armor enchants, and Aura of Shared Pain will make it hurt itself when it hits you. Only a little bit, but it can be enough for passives. It doesn't take much to kill them. Whereas Web Armor will slow it down a little bit, but it won't hurt it. So you still get the protection, but they're not taking damage. Also can't mix and match. Yes, that's a really important point, Robbie. So if you start on Steam, you can't then switch to the standalone client. So the game was only released on Steam a few years ago. Somebody will be able to tell me exactly when. Was it 2020? Was it 2020? So a lot of the longer standing players, they will all be standalone client players because Steam just wasn't available. Whereas newer players, you tend to get a bit more of a split. Some of them will have come through Steam and some of them will have come through the original client. Yes, don't kill your pets with your trousers like Ruffle almost did the other day. But yeah, so to bring something like that home, you've got to aggravate it without a weapon attached and ideally without AOSP on your armor. And then you want to slowly, I tend to do it walking backwards a lot of the time or in third person, try and kite it across the server. You will, even if you're being very careful, probably have to at several points stop and aggravate it again when it loses ag. And you will find that some types of terrain are harder to cross with them. So creatures that can't swim, for example, which is a lot of them, but you can find out on Wurmpedia on the wiki which creatures do and don't swim if you're not sure. Creatures that can't swim obviously will not follow you across water that's too deep to walk through. And anywhere where there's sort of a highway crossing through water, you should be fine because that will all be at walking depth. But if you've got what looks like, for example, a shallow riverbed, it might be that you just cross over a bit of tile where you swim for a moment where it isn't actually crossable and they may not follow you through. They also have a tendency to get stuck on some bridges, not all bridges. So you want to, you might need to try and find a route that avoids you taking them over bridges. And instead, sometimes that means taking them the long way round, which is what I had to do with that mountain gorilla. There was a bridge just here over the canal at the bottom of Brambleheim. I could not get it over it, and what I had to do was actually take it the long way round, all the way around this little lake, and up over the mountain here, back down the mountain to Brambleheim, because I had several attempts to try and get over that bridge, and I just could not do it. So I had to take a very, very long way round. So these are my crabbies. I love me some crabbies. Some people don't find crabs characterful and charming like I do in Wurm, and I don't know why, because I think, look at their happy little faces. Look at those eyes. They're just so... I don't know how anybody can not like crabs. In Wurm, like in real life, I think crabs are fascinating, but I don't want them anywhere near me. They pinch. These ones pinch too, but they're just so characterful. I love their little eyes, and I love their little grabby hands. So we got a fashionably late over here, a saber-toothed crayfish, party starter just there, creepy cranky crab, danger crabs over there, a fluffy crab up there. I've got quite a few of these, so I might actually be reaching the point where I need to expand the crab pens somehow, or maybe just divide them up a little bit more. This one's quite a long pen, this could be divided. I've got a little bit of driftwood that's just spawned in this one, which I really like, and I actually make a point of not taking the foraging nodes out of the animal pens if they are sort of sympathetic to the design. Because you may have noticed as I'm going around that these creatures are all in pens which are kind of matched to their biome. If you've ever played something like Zoo Tycoon, you will be used to matching biomes to creatures. You don't have to do that in Wurm at all, but because I was building a wildlife park, I wanted the spaces that creatures inhabited to reflect the environment that they should live in. So the crabs are all in, sandy little pens, and some of them have got a pool. Up top when we get to like the wolves and the wildcats, they're in woodlands. The tortoises are on kind of sandy shored bits over here with some trees. The crocs are in a croc swamp, which I'm particularly proud of, which I'll show you a little bit later. So I'm just going to ride back through and see that all of these have still got a bit of meat left and they haven't chomped their way through it too fast. All looks good. And because my champion rats eat so much, I tend to feed them twice. So I'm going to go and drop this remaining meat up in the champion rats, and then I'm going to feed them again on my way back past later. Because these poor things, I can... Oh my god, there's so many on one tile. I don't know why they're all bunched up, but I'm amazed none of them are yet diseased. As you'll see, many of these rats do not have... They are not fat. That one's fat, but a lot of them are not. And I really struggle to get my rats up to fat because they just eat and eat and eat. They seem to be perpetually hungry. And if I pop that down, there's about to be, I suspect, here you go, a massive sort of gathering of rats who will eat through that in no time. What's your new crab friend, Ruffle? Is that the one that you brought home from an impalong? Yep. And the last bit of meat's about to go. Oh, or is it? Is it? Have they all successfully eaten? I bet they haven't. There's loads of them here. The rats are one of the exhibits which are sorely... Oh, there we go, and the last one's gone. See, now that one says diseased, but this is a slightly weird thing. Animals get diseased when there are too many of them on the same tile for too long, but this is actually not that kind of diseased. This is a conditioned rat, and the way you know it's conditioned as diseased instead of actually diseased, as in a way that you can cure that is problematic for its health, is because it is also fat. Whereas any creature, when it gets diseased, will lose its fat status. So if you see something like that, you can also tell because it's a different colour to the rest, and the conditioned rats in particular, it's not true of all conditioned creatures. That's a conditioned one as well. You can see it's a slightly different colour than that one. The conditioned rats and unicorns and several other creatures that have been in conditioned versions of them have been in the game a long time. They get a different colour tint. So I don't know where that diseased rat went back and hid, but it was a kind of a yellowish colour, which is the other way of telling. But if you've ever got a creature that looks diseased and you're trying to humour drizzle it with your priest and you're not sure why it's not fixing it, it might be because you've got a conditioned creature there rather than one that is actually diseased. I pinch you so bad. I wish no pinch. I wish I no pinch. I'm kind of sad. I'm kind of sad that I didn't get one. Probably should have. But I was trying to be good. I have been trying to be good and not bring back 40 odd creatures from every impalong this year, because I have brought back that many from an impalong some year, and there are like 4 or 5 impalongs a year on the Southern Freedom Isles. Gonna need a little bit more than that. A little bit more. So let's have another 20 of those. Oh, I missed a follow from Gabriel. Oh, it was before I started streaming. Well, I don't know if you're around, Gabriel, but if you are, thanks for the follow. And I don't know if I said thank you for the follow, Cullen and Helen, but thank you both as well. So I'm about to go and feed my tortoises. They only eat vegetables, but once I get beyond them, I'm going to be back into meat eater territory. So I'm going to grab a bunch of meat to take with me. Just getting the meat and vegetables to keep feeding these things is a bit of a mission as well. I've got a very good stock built up, but I do occasionally have to go on a big butchering grind to top up my stores. So there's a whole load of the upper deed up there. We're going to come around to that, but first I'm going to do my little tortoises, who are all across the front, kind of the waterfront here of Brambleheim. Brambleheim carries on down to about where that unicorn is there. There's a bridge just over the canal there, and that's the end of the deed. You are a ratty. I love rats. I love rats in Wurm, actually. You won't have seen it if you've only ever encountered rats in aggressive mode, but if you've ever tamed a rat in Wurm, or seen somebody with a tamed rat, when they are tamed and not trying to swipe at you, and you see someone leading one along, they do this lovely little, like, hippity-hoppity kind of a run after the person leading them, and I think it's absolutely adorable. I love them. There are not many creatures I don't like in Wurm, in fairness. Oh, you suddenly became a rat! That sounds like mischief. Sounds like there's a GM out causing mischief. There we go. So we've got Chair and Christmas Cookie in this pen, who are going to come and eat some carrots. And this will just give me an indication of quite how hungry they are. So I dropped 4. I'm expecting them to only eat 1 each. You can see down here as well But if you're feeding a lot of things at once, they will move quite fast. So they only ate one each, which suggests that for the most part, my tortoises are not overly hungry. They're just normal hungry, which is good. So we've got 3 in this one. Chocolate turtle ice cream, chuckles, an odd-looking egg. So I'm going to drop them 1 each and a couple of spare to tide them over the next time somebody comes by and they're hungry. 4 in this one. We've got 2 tortoises in this one. So 4 there. I've got a couple of champion deer here, which are named by me rather than named by GMs. You can tell when something has been named by a player because the name will be in hyphens, in quotes. Technically in apostrophes rather than quotes, whereas a GM named creature does not have those quote marks. The name just comes directly after the age and the health marker for it. But yes, I've got a couple of deer here, which were gifts from some of my alliance mates, Fairy Shine and Yuri. They bred them for me when I came back to Wurm in 2019 after a bit of a break. So they're here for sentimental reasons. And I've got my champion tortoise here, which is, again, a me-named one, Akipara, because I love tortoises, and then when I get to see them absolutely gigantic with their lovely little tortoise faces, they just make me so happy. So that one is also a sentimental one for different reasons. It wasn't a gift from anybody. I just think he's lovely. Madune's a tortoise. GM's clearly working her way around Spawned Lake at the moment. I say her. I'm assuming this is Pom out on a rampage, but it could be any of the GMs. You never know. Look at their eyes. They're so lovely. Again, I don't know how anybody can not like tortoises in Wurm. I think they are super lovely models. Really nice to look at. And if you're looking for, just 1 or 2 pets, albeit that you have to feed, and you want something with a bit of impact, champion tortoises, champion crab if you can get hold of one, but you can only get hold of those from well springs generally. Champion tortoises occasionally get spawned by missions. I've yet to see a mission spawn champion crabs. So let's drop some sage for those ones. 1, 2, we've got 3 in this one. I've got some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles here. So we've got Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, just missing Raphael. Drop 5 for those. I think I've also, in one of the pens at Little Venice waiting to be brought back here, I've got a Ninja Turtle, which might mean I have to have 5 in that pen. I might put him next door. Little pistachio pudding over here. Sharing a picture of you and Madune. Let's have a look. If she gets enough of you in the same area, you could do a whole, line-up for a picture. Let's have a look-see. Oh, nice! Very, very good, Madune. You got transformed on a cart. I don't think I have ever seen somebody in tortoise form on a cart before. For anybody who doesn't know and hasn't yet been on the receiving end of GM mischief, it's important that you know if a GM turns you into something else and you are mounted, you will lose that effect when you dismount. And likewise, if they turn you into something else while you are running about, you will lose that effect if you then mount something, either a vehicle or an animal. So if they turn you into something cool and you want to stay in that form, don't make the mistake of going and embarking or riding on something. Ooh, these ones are a bit hungrier. Let's drop you a little bit more. And then, in fact, I could drop you even a little bit more than that, so let's drop a few there and a couple more here. 1 there and 2 there. Turtle will beat the bunny in the race who's got a cart. I saw that pun bun. You nearly slipped it by me. Catastrophe. So that's the end of the tortoise pens. Before I go to the upper bit, I'm now going to go to the croc swamp, which is one of my favourite exhibits. I was really chuffed with this one. So here we have the croc swamp, and all of the croc pens are sunken down and planted with reeds, which means the crocs are lurking just kind of just about visible in and amongst all of this. And like often when I'm feeding them, I will walk into a pen and it will take me a good like 30 seconds to locate the croc that's supposed to be in it. They are in stealth mode, essentially, in their croc swamp. And there are two ways that you can enjoy this. If you come and visit Brambleheim and you want to actually get the wildlife park experience and look around, there's two ways to experience the croc swamp. You can go through sunken pathways through the middle and find them there. Some of them are named after players in this one. In fact, there is a Crimson Earth one. That's an Eshri one, named after this character that I'm playing, an Eshri escort. And there is a Crimson Earth somewhere in this pen, too. Just gotta find her. There she is. So that's two crocs named after my characters. And we've got a Calvert gravestone for anybody who missed it last time, because the first time that Joshua Calvert and I streamed together back in end of April, start of May last year, which started many, many streaming adventures that we've shared since, he came to visit Brambleheim, and I dared him to come racing through the croc pens with me. And he is definitely not a faux priest, so everything was going to attack us. And we glitched out in one of the pens, and I got him half killed. So when I got a corpse recently of Joshua Calvert, when we threw ourselves off Dragonfang Mountain on Indy just before Christmas, I said I would come and bury it in the croc pens where he should have died, next to the champion Crimson Earth, and there his body lies. So yeah, so if you're coming to visit, you can come and get a kind of a really up close view, running through the sunken paths in the croc swamp. Don't worry, you won't be able to go through any of the gates, hopefully. So that's one route through, but also if you want a sort of a bird's eye view, this is a gift shop here, but I haven't actually put anything in it, so very sorry, the gift shop has not been open in the whole time it has been built. But if you want a bird's eye view, there is also a swamp hop upper walkway. Ooh, there's acorns on the trees. It's not often I'm up high enough to actually see one of those. There's this upper walkway where you can get a sort of a bird's eye view down into the croc swamps. And again, they're pretty stealthy. There's one. And a little bit tricky to spot. So you just spend a little bit of time sort of looking down, having a peek. You can follow these ropeways actually all the way over the unicorn and deer pens over there, and then up to the Hell House, which is where the Hellhounds live. So you can follow this. You can now follow this ropeway all the way through. It used to be a dead end, but it now connects to the upper deeds. You can go nuts. That was another pun bun. That was 2 puns in 5 minutes. Assuming I haven't missed you all past your hourly quota. The hour hasn't even just ticked over. It's 2 in short shrift, and I'm going to be keeping my beady eye on you now. This is not an escapee, this is just a wild pig, but I'll let him stay there, he's not doing any harm. Although I suppose it would be kind if I were to lead him back off the bridge, so he has a chance of not starving horribly to death. Let's bring him down. Go on, piggy, go and find some corpses to feast on. So that's the way that visitors would view the croc pens. I, however, need to feed the crocs, so I'm going to go through them. And thank goodness for faux priests, because this is not fun to do if they are attacking you. 3 meat for this one. Even finding the gates in the reeds is a bit hard. It's a good thing that I know where I put them, mostly. Could just chop it and feed it to the pigs. I could have led it into the croc pens. I think none of my crocs are hungry enough that they would attack it just yet, though it would probably live quite happily in the croc pens for a little while. It is so hard to see crocs in these croc pens that I do tend to just ride through, dropping roughly the amount I know I need in them. Because I maybe planted them a little bit too well. But I kind of like the effect of it anyway, sort of pushing through the reeds, and just every so often you'll see a snout, or you'll see a tail flick. Like, I don't know, where's the one in this pen, for example? There he is. There she is. Still got my eye on you, bun. So that's half the crocs fed. There is another nest of crocs over this side. So we'll just do these ones quickly. Where are the gates on this one? Just over here. 1, 2. I'm not going to have quite enough meat. Oh dear. Might be all right. Somebody's not going to get fed quite as well as they might like, but it'll do. Let's pop 1 in here, and I think there's possibly 2 in the end pen. Let's pop 2 in there. Innocent you are not. So that's the croc swamp. Up here I've got passives that will feed themselves. This is quite a deliberate measure because although that was pretty much the only place I could put the croc swamp, and I do have to feed them, there is a canalway just here. It's not a massively used canal. It's sort of like quite a quiet little one that you only tend to know about if you're in the area or if you've been on release a long time. So it doesn't get a whole lot of traffic, but it does get a little bit, which means there are quite often people close enough to these pens that they will trigger these animals to want to eat. So although the crocs can't be helped because that was the only place the croc swamp could go, I deliberately put more grazers here so that they were less likely to end up starving if I was away for a little while and there were a lot of people sailing past. But these are all actually about to move when I do the expansion backwards. Like the deed has expanded, but the pens have not yet. There's going to be a little bit of a move around, and the wolves are going to move down here into a thicker woodland, and the deer and the unicorns are actually going to move up towards the back, towards the highway, which does get more traffic than the canal. Those unicorns might go for an unsuspecting noob, though. Unicorns are passive. They will not attack you. They are totally fine. You'll notice that these ones are in all kinds of candy colours. That's because unicorns, when they are spawned with conditions, do also take on a colour tint. Not everything does. So we've got a pink fluffy unicorn there. Some of these were spawned this year, so if you like one of these, there might still be some around to find. You do need a goodly amount of taming for unicorns, though. I would say you want at least 40. But there were some spawned on Deliverance. I suspect the ones that were spawned just outside of Green Dog are now long gone, but a little birdie told me that there were some other clusters spawned elsewhere. This, however, is one from, I think, about 3 years ago, so this is a very old one. And we've got a blizzard over there and snowflakes. Some of the ones in here are not coloured, like we've got a Friendship is Magic over there, which is just an ordinary unicorn with a special name. But these will all feed themselves, thankfully. And likewise, we've got some fancy deer over this side, including many of, but not all of, Santa's reindeer. Which one are Santa's reindeer in? So we've got a sugar plum over there. We've got a Yulebok just there. I think Santa's reindeer are down the bottom, actually. Got a little Bambi and a Bambo. And then down here we go. We've got Santa's reindeer, and I haven't got the full set. And I had the full set, but these were actually some of the very, very first creatures that I tamed and brought back to Brambleheim. And because there was a full set, I was like, I'm never going to manage to care for 8 things in time. And some of them were already old when I brought them back, and they didn't all make it. But I've got a Comet, I've got a Blitzen, I've got a Prancer. What else have we got? We've got a Rudolph, a Vixen. I think there's an almost Rudolph. I feel like there's another one somewhere. Might have missed one. Oh, Cupid. There we go. There's a Cupid. But it is not a full set, alas. You can carry on up there and go round and get to the upper deed that way, but I'm going to go this way because I need to go via another FSB because I am once again out of food. So now we're coming back up towards the middle of the wildlife park, the upper bit, which is almost entirely aggressive mobs with a couple of exceptions. Just gone straight past the Hell House. So this lovely slate building, this is the Hell House. This is where the Hellhounds live. And Hellhounds are tameable. You might think that they were counted as a monster, but they are not. They are counted as a creature, and so they can be charmed by Foe Priest, and they can be tamed by players, but again, you need pretty good taming for these. Almost everything up here is going to eat meat, but have I got space left? No, I don't. I am just going to, before I feed these, feed my dragons in the pen just behind me. My dragon in the pen behind me. And this dragon is a herbivore. So let's just go and find the dragon. Are you creating slate bricks for me, Bun? Bun's going to be grinding away making slate bricks for me because I built a large building on a small deed out of slate sometime mid last year, and I depleted my supply of slate bricks in my warehouse down to about 1,000, which might sound like a lot, but when you build as much as I do, I get a little bit queasy if I drop below, say, 5,000 bricks, but I prefer to have about 10,000 bricks of a given brick type in my warehouse, so that when I get the urge to go and build something, I've got the materials ready to go. So Bun's sorting me out over there. So, where are you? Oh, we got a little early riser pheasant down there in the grass. Got some more pheasants clustered about here somewhere. Just got to find them. They're very good at hiding. Venerable fat. There we go. There's my little red dragon. This is why this one is a herbivore. So next question is, where's the food bowl, which is also hiding? There we go. So I'm just going to drop some of that in there. And we've got some more little pheasant friends. Don't know if you guys can hear that, but it sounds like the wind is really picking up in Wurm for me. Wurm sounds always sound quite high for me through my headphones, but I know they don't sound quite so high on stream. So I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. Brr. You can hear it, can you? Good. 3,000 mostly done during stream. Well done, Bun. You'll soon have me back up to 10k. Yeah. There we go. So, which pheasants have we got here? Again, you've got to find them in the long grass. So we've got a partridge in a pear tree there. We were referring to this the other day. Somebody was talking about the year where they spawned partridges in a pear tree. It was 2 or 3 years ago, when some of the Christmas spawns, and that's where some of the other ones that we've seen, like four calling birds and drummers drumming and things, those all came from that same year's spawns. And this was the partridge in the pear tree. There is at least one other in here somewhere, possibly two. Can we find them? There'll be... Oh! Almost ran over one. We've got a stuffed turkey in here too. Oh, there we go, just the two. And 3 in that one. Right. So that's the pheasants. Like chickens, they do not graze, they have to be fed. And all aggressive mobs have to be fed. So we're going to go and feed the hellhounds, who are doing a bit of a cluster over here. Hot dogs and Christmas puppers. Caring bears and Fenrir. These have got little food bowls tucked near the pillars, where I don't have to be able to see them through the long grass. I just know where they are. And like the puppers, these get sort of semi-furnished, like little cozy spaces. So they've got a little bit of indoors, outdoors space, some of them. All my food bowls, where they've got food bowls, are also named, which is a little detail that most people probably won't notice, but I quite enjoy it. So these ones are eating sticks snacks, which is not a pun. These ones are eating deviled eggs, which is definitely a pun, I'm sorry to say. But it's an animal-related pun, so it's allowed. This one here, we've got hell biscuits. And you're going to hear a lot of howling on this upper bit of the deed, because we have both hellhounds and wolves up here. Ice cream sprinkles over there. See? They're friendly. A lemon meringue with a typo, but I'll allow it. Pest control over here. Let's feed you too. Awful offal. That's alliteration rather than a pun. Oh, look at those cave buds doing their wiggles over there. And a puppy. Nobody can object to a puppy. And we got a couple more over here. I did, a couple of weeks ago, back when reindeer were still spawning on deed, have to pull a few reindeer, unfortunate reindeer, out of aggressive creature pens the last time I came and did a feeding run. I found one poor reindeer wandering around a hellhound pen looking very panicky. And I found another one in the wolf pens. But they all survived. I haven't found any reindeer corpses in here, at least. So that should be all of the hellhounds. We got a Vayu hunter over there and a Sneaky Pete. That should be all of the hellhounds done. Several degrees below freezing where you are, huh? 3 pairs of socks and wool underwear. It has been quite cold here as well. I mean, I don't think it's been that bad, but we briefly had snow the night before last, and there's been a lot of frost on the ground. It has been palpably chilly here, and it's going to get chillier, I think, before it gets warmer again. Now, I'm down to 39 meat, which will do me a little bit, but I'm going to have to pick up some more soon. So we've got some little lions here. Fierce T is named after a player in game. That's named after T-Bomb. We've got a Scar over there and a Putty Tat. So we'll drop some food for them. You got almost no snow. We didn't get very much, and it came, in fairness, it went in the early hours, so we only caught sort of the very beginnings of it, and it had rained by morning. Did not last long. And then we've got the very big Putty Tats over here. The champion and other, there are some larger conditioned mountain lions in here as well. I kind of always feel bad feeding feeding an animal its own kind of meat. Sometimes I do it without noticing, but when I do notice, I try and swap them over, and, you know, I don't really know why, just because it feels wrong somehow. Thankfully, the lions don't eat much for their size, so that will keep them going. Also, they are right in the middle of the wildlife park, which means they are triggered least often. Same with the champion cats over here that we're going to go and look at in a minute. So let's drop that for the lions. Then we've got some of my very favourites. All of the champion kitty cats. None of them tame, none of them friendly. Quite a lot of them here, in fact, despite the fact that I've got 2 quite large pens for them. They do feel like they're all crammed in a bit. I kind of feel like I need to find a way to give them a little bit more space. Maybe when I move the wolves and some other things down. So they're going to need more than that, because there's quite a few of them. That should do. Got another big pen filled with named champion cats over here. And if you caught the title screen of this one, of this stream, we had champion cats on the title screen. I came and took a picture, took a selfie in the pens with them. Warmed up to a high of -6 there today, did it, Robbie? Robbie gets very extreme weather conditions where Robbie lives, whereas I live in one of the mildest climates on Earth. And then we've got wolves over here. Some of them shiny colours and conditioned, many of them champion. I really like, actually, the hardened condition on any dark coloured animals. It looks really nice on black bears as well. They get this lovely kind of sort of oil slick sheen to them, which I think is very pretty. Bear meat, so we're okay feeding bear meat to wolves. These also will not eat a lot, so that'll do. Got a little red one down there, a fierce Red Riding Hood taster, because a front came in with snow. And that's what warmed you up, was it? How does the snow warm it up? How does that work? Teach me about weather, Robbie. It's probably actually a little bit more than I wanted to drop. See how much they eat, I suppose. Got a greenish one here, Little Red's grandmother, which obviously we don't keep in the same pen as the Little Red Riding Hood taster, otherwise they would go to town. Pacific Ocean Air moved over British Columbia. Ah. Okay. I learned a thing. Thank you. Let's pick those 2 up. You get water sounds pretty much all across this deed. If you get to sort of back there and backwards, that's when the water sounds tend to go. But I was talking about those kind of ambient sounds as you move closer to and further away from water just the other day. And like, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I can hear crickets now. but I can only just hear the edges of the water lapping. So when I go over here, the water sounds will disappear almost completely. But when I double round back towards my food bin for more stuff, we're going to start to hear the water again. And it's slowly increasing in volume as I get closer to the water. And this is one of the reasons I have the sounds on in Wurm, because I really like the ambient sounds. I need to bring some more meat up here because I am running low. Look at that. I'm going to have to, I've got more meat. I just need to redistribute it around the deed. Bring a load up from the other end, I think. Although the shop is not open, there are several ways up and down off this upper bit, so you can cross a little bridge up into the top bit of the shop and take stairs down. Can't do it on a pony or a donkey, as I am. So that's one way. When I said the rope bridges over the croc pens also led over the top of the unicorn pens and connected up to the top, they will connect halfway up into the hell house. So there's a way through there as well. We're going to go feed some cave bugs, carrying on the biomes theme. I built caves for my cave bugs. Not all of them have an actual cave, but they are all on rock terrain, and it took me longer than I care to admit to surface mine quite a bit of stuff down here in order to make these kind of uppy-downy, lumpy-looking bits of bare rock terrain for these. And in particular to shape these back, because this upper bit here, this actually came out quite a bit further at the same height. And I had to mine quite a way back in order to get these gentle slopes that I could both put fences on and that cave bugs would not look completely ridiculous on. Pomona, GM Pomona, is quite fond of cave bugs. Pomona spawns them quite a lot, and there is one called something like, I don't know, Pomona's favourite thing, or something around here somewhere, rather. And I quite like cave bugs. There we go, Pomona's favourite thing. A lot of people don't like cave bugs. I absolutely understand why. They are kind of slightly cockroachy looking. They've got a sort of like that kind of body movement is the sort of thing that I can absolutely understand why it makes people go, ugh. But I don't know. I quite like their. I don't know why. I just quite like them. Whenever they get spawned, I'm like, I'll have me some cave bugs. I like some cave bugs. Which is weird because I'm somebody who is bugged out by bugs. Certainly by a lot of kind of bugs. I have quite a visceral repulsion reaction to a lot of creepy crawly things, particularly if they're getting anywhere near my skin. But these don't set me off at all. I just think they're quite sweet, really. Cave bug, yeah, it does. It has nice texture. It has nice animations. Some of the creatures have got really nice faces. I wouldn't say that cave bugs are one of them. Like the tortoises have got lovely faces. But I find them characterful and interesting, and I like them, so I keep bringing more and more of them home. And despite the fact that like the whole basically one side of this upper deed is converted for cave bugs, got 3 or 4 in this pen. I've been running out of space for cave bugs ever since I expanded their space last time, so there's quite a few crammed in each pen, and I don't really have a very good way of continuing to expand their space further. So I keep being like, I've got to stop picking up so many cave bugs. Maybe I should bring less cave bugs home. But then somebody spawns a nice cave bug, and I'm like, ooh, just one more, just another little wafer thin extra one. I'll just squeeze it in somewhere. But as you can see, they are getting a little bit overloaded. Some of them are stacking like lizards. Don't need quite that many in there. Breadcrumbs with surprise. Some of these have got some really weird names as well. Some have got the kind of ones like puns on bugs, like bed bugs. We've got a features not bugs somewhere here. Just a features on its own. Congratulations, Shido. That was spawned at Shido's Paz party when he reached 100 platesmithing and threw a party with Sugar Fox. A frog in disguise over there. They do get some weird names. But we've got some GMs that definitely favour cave bugs, so they get spawned a lot. And I said I was going to go and drop some more meat for the rats and true to my word, I am. I don't think any or many of them are going to eat at this point, but I am just going to wait a second to see if any of them do and make sure I leave an amount for them before I ride off. And we're nearly done. We're nearly done. There's only the bears left to do, I think. Now, obviously, I've been waffling a bit, so I'm going slower than I normally would, but even when I'm being super efficient, this does still take a while. There's a reason why sometimes I don't spend as much time at my own deed as you might think I do, but on the plus side, most of the time I spend at my deed, I am all the way up there, when the only things I'm encouraging to eat by my presence are mostly the chickens. So I might have been lucky enough to get them all last time, or there might be one or two which are just being slow to trigger. When you've got hungry animals around, sometimes they won't come immediately. So just because nothing came rushing in doesn't mean there isn't anything here which is still hungry. If I take that back, that will at least leave them with an amount. Because sometimes they're a little bit slow to activate and come looking for food. 14 meat, however, is not going to get me through the bear pen, so I'm just going to go and pick up a little bit more before I do the last stretch up there. And then that will be everything fed. I did consider trying to show how you can do the taming and management, branding and caring of things on a stream this time, but because this was done, this stream was done at sort of quite short notice, and with not as much preparation as I usually get on a weekend. I decided that I was just going to focus on feeding them, but I could do that sometime if anyone's interested, because there's a little bit of a knack to it. For example, if you tame a creature, only you can care for it, so long as you are online with it. So if you have a faux priest, for example, that goes and charms your creatures and brings them home, you want the faux priest to probably go and do the branding to tame the creature. But if you then right-click on a tamed creature, I can't show you because I don't have one tamed right now, but if you right-click on a creature that is your pet, there will be an option where you can command it to stay online when you are offline, which is what you want to do if you want somebody other than the person who has it tamed to care for it. So whether it is tamed or charmed, doesn't matter, it works the same way. But if you're using a faux priest to manage caring for large amounts of creatures and using alts to do that caring, you want to tame them, put them somewhere safe where they're not going to get attacked by any other aggressive mobs, set them to stay online when you go offline, and you, the person who tamed them, the toon that tamed them, will then need to go offline, and they will need to go offline until they actually log out. There's a command for that. You can see how long it will take. So if you type /low time, log out time, because I haven't fought anything recently and I'm on my own deed, I would log out immediately. But if I had just charmed something, as a faux priest, when you charm things, they will turn aggressive immediately. It's not like taming, where if you tame something with food, it will stay passive, assuming it's already passive. It will stay passive, but you might aggravate it and have it attack you. As a faux priest, even if it's a passive creature that you are charming, it will always go aggressive. So you want to make sure you don't have a weapon equipped when you're charming anything, and you will also have a longer cooldown because you've recently been in a fight before you log out completely from the game. So even if you close the client, if you've got an alting game sitting there watching, it will take a little while longer for that toon to disappear, and the toon needs to disappear before the pet creature that remains in the game becomes care-forable. So that's a little bit of a sort of a way you need to work things if you want to have toons caring for creatures which are tamed by other people, other toons. There's some other kind of niggly bits around it as well. How many cave bugs can I store in buckets in backpacks? You're talking about chopping up cave bugs in my... Rude. You're not welcome at my wildlife park. I jest, you're always welcome at my wildlife park. I know you can't get in the pens. These are all my black bears, and you'll notice when we go across to the brown bears that the brown bears are all smaller, and there's a reason for that. Because brown bears are mountable if you've got them tamed. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. You need a certain amount of skill to be able to do it anyway, and also a tamed creature. As soon as you take it out anywhere near aggressive things, they will go for it. But because brown bears can be mounted, anything that can be mounted doesn't change size when it's conditioned or when it has when it's in champion, when it's got the champion condition. Whereas black bears cannot be used as mounts, and therefore they come in a variety of sizes, as do most other conditioned creatures. But you see when we go over to the brown bears, they are all the same size, and that's because they're mounts. It's also a good indicator of the other kinds of things you can mount in the game, like, for example, crocodiles, which also don't come in bigger sizes because they are mounts. Very, very slow mounts, I hasten to add. Right, have these eaten anything since I dropped it? No, so these are all good. So that's the black bears. The other bit that I was going to say before I distracted myself, which I'm very good at doing, is also if you are not a member of a deed, you cannot care for a creature on somebody else's deed without perms set up. And if you're using alts to manage care slots for things, you will probably make them a member of your deed anyway. But deeds do have an upper limit of the number of citizens you can have before you start paying extra. So if for whatever reason you're wanting to care for things with an alt that does not belong to the deed, or if you've got friends who've got care slots free on the server that you're on and are willing to help you out with stuff, you want to unbrand the creature if it's already branded, lead it off deed tamed, and then do the same trick and somebody else can care for it. If it's a passive creature, that can be led without taming. It doesn't need to be tamed to be cared for at all. So a sheep, you can just walk up to a sheep in the wild and care for it. Same with cows, same with horses and things. But actually, I think it's also true of passives. You can't brand passives that require taming without first taming them, but I think you can care for them. So actually, you can just walk up to a unicorn. You can just walk up to a dog and care for them because they are already passive, which is how my champion whale, which is not tameable, has lived so long, because even though it can't be tamed, it can be cared for as a passive. But yeah, so somebody who's not a member of your deed can care for things on your deed. You just have to take them off deed long enough for them to care for it. Then you walk them back on, rebrand them if necessary, and voila, you have another cared for creature. If you find yourself doing that a lot, I would recommend making an off-deed safety pen somewhere nearby that you can lead them into so they don't get accidentally attacked. More bears over here. And as I said, these bears are all the same size, even though many of them are champions. That one's a raging one. You can see the slight colour tint there. But they are all the same size because they are mountable once tamed. The downside of that, it also means that champion crocs and champion bears have a really easy time sneaking up on you in the wild because they don't look any different. Champion scorpions too. Number of times I've been like, why is it taking me so long to kill this thing that snuck up on me? And then I realise it's because it's a champion and you just can't tell looking at it. You can only tell on mouse over or if you're paying attention to the event window. But there we go. So this is the upper bit of the deed. The deed does now extend all the way back up here. So we're going to get pens built all the way along the back of here and continue to expand up that way. And just down the hill, we've got the champion rats down there, but behind the bison back at the petting zoo, there's a load of land up there, which I'm also going to turn into pens to make a little bit more breathing room. But that is the extent of the park and the creatures in it. And like I say, I'm a little bit behind on counting them all. I do have a spreadsheet, but there are a lot. There are literally hundreds, all of them cared for, which is why I have an army of once premiumed alts, all of whom are citizens of this rather large deed. For now, I have yet to run out of citizens. I always run out of deed ratio first, so that's not really a problem for me with having to have alts that are not part of the deed. But anybody's welcome to come here anytime. And come and have a look if you want to. Like I said, they've all got like little signs on the pens that tells you what's in there, what kind of things to look for, particularly in the ones that are a little bit harder to spot, like the crocs. It can be quite nice to know what you're looking for. But this park is going to go through a series of expanding and renovation, rejuvenation, and expansion, which will also involve moving some of these big gates, possibly moving some of these big gates further up the hill and back, and building some new kind of gatehouse entrances in some spots as well. And that's them. One can have a large amount of citizens. You can have a very large amount of citizens compared to your deed size. So if your deed is expanding because of deed ratio, very, very unlikely you'll hit your citizens cap. So for reference, this is a 10 silver a month deed with a trader discount. So it's 50 by 125 at the moment. And it can have, it's got 410 creatures branded somewhere here. Is it on this screen or is it on another screen? It will tell me how many citizens I'm allowed. I think it might actually be when you go to resize it that it tells you. Let's have a look-see. It's a weird place to have my character pane. Let's have a look-see. So if I go to resize settlement, somewhere in here, possibly 2 or 3 screens in, it will tell me. So I can hire up to 50 cards, which I have none. You do not want Spirit Templars on a deed where you're going to be keeping aggressive animals. And you want to be careful where you put your guard towers as well, and have a look at your deed perms. You want to turn off, you might want to turn off, depending on where your guard tower is relative to your aggressive animal pens. You might want to turn, like, tweak some settings around what kinds of things people can attack on deed. Is it the next one? Yeah, here we go. So I can have 129 player citizens, which is about the tile length of this deed. Having said that, does it tell me how many I've got? Oh, no. Okay, no, sorry. There you go. So my maximum number of citizens is 568. The maximum number of branded animals is 568, and I've got 410 branded. I've got 129 player citizens, which is pretty much my army of alts, although some of them are no longer members of this deed, where they've gone off and founded other deeds for me. But I would really, really struggle to end up with more alts, members of this deed, that were pushing that cost up. I am much more likely to... I mean, I run out of deed ratio so far, so I was going to say I'm much more likely to actually run out of branded animal slots, but I won't, because, again, my deed ratio is only just over 15 at the moment, and I'm not even close to my maximum number of branded animals, so the only way I would start approaching this is if I were using this deed to brand animals that I kept off deed in pens or on other deeds. But I don't do that. So generally speaking, these are never going to give you trouble, these caps here. And they're only soft caps anyway. You can go over them, you just pay more if you do. And now that the sun's back up again, this is sort of the approach. So if you want to come and visit the wildlife park, you can park anywhere across the coast, but there's sort of a flagged down entrance here that's got the Brambleheim marked on these mission structures. So you can park a boat up here, and this is sort of like what I would consider the main entrance to the park, but there are many entrances, ways in. So you can park a boat up here, come straight into the petting zoo. You can park anywhere down there along the coast near the tortoises or the crocs and come in that way. You can come via the highway and come in down off the highway, which runs along here behind the back of the deed. And if anybody does come to visit while you're over here, go and pay a visit to Titch's Memorial if you haven't already, which is just a little way further up the highway. It is sort of behind Brambleheim and just a little bit to the north. So I'm here. Titch's Memorial is over here. You just travel a little bit further up the highway and off to the right instead of off to the left. Left would take you to Brambleheim, and up a bit further and off to the right would take you to Clearwater Spring, which has Titch's Memorial at the end of it, which is quite a nice little bit of Wurm history, and obviously a memorial to a much loved player and developer who was a big influence on the game for many years. And that there is the zoo, and all animals fed, even the little extra ones. Willow says you could also come and visit Willow. She needs a cleaner. You Willow's deed is just a little way further up the coast from Titch's Memorial. So you could come and pay a visit to the head GM, and she can put you to work in her dungeons. I mean, on her deed, tidying her deed up. Spick and span. Bun's threatening to come and clean your deed. I've still got a load of meat in my inventory, so I'm just going to go and drop that one off. And just quickly make sure that these chooks have still got food in their bowls. They should have, but sometimes they get unexpectedly hungry. Yeah, they're all good. Oh dear. I've just realised I am... Well, those who were watching the stream the other day where Ruffle and I went shopping will have noticed that I bought myself a safety Jenkellen guard tower because I was worried that I only had 1 or 2 in storage and that was not sufficient. This is a Mulrehan guard tower. The JK ones are the squarish ones. But I haven't tucked it away anywhere yet, and it's not in my inventory, which means I've probably left it somewhere on Calvert's deed. I shall have to go back and pick that up. I think I probably just put it down somewhere on his deed, where I've been the past few days. So I need to remember to go back and get that. Last time you helped Myra cleaning, you got to... no, it's not going to be in a boat because I portal to Calvert's deed. I do sometimes sail over, but usually only when I'm taking the building box over when we're actually working on projects together or something. But for the most part, when we're just hanging out, I will portal over because I've got a portal ping priest at Sloping Sands. I mean, in a good breeze, I can sail to most of the other small servers, to the middle of most of the other small servers quite quickly. But if the wind is not in my favour and I'm too impatient, I can just portal ping myself over there in about 2 or 3 minutes. And laziness does often get the better of me. So that is what I tend to do. But you put the tower in the boat whilst you were on stream. I did, but I then took it out of that boat later. So that boat was then brought back here by Eshri. I didn't want to log out and leave it in there overnight, so I picked it up again before I went to sleep. So I was carrying it in my inventory, but then I was doing some logging near Calvert's deed, and I cannot carry both a felled tree and an unfinished guard tower, so I had to keep putting it down somewhere, and I think I put it down and left it there, but I should go and pick it up later. So there we go. Happy little, how long has it been? 2 hours. That's a nice, neat amount of time. Little feeding time at the zoo kind of a thing. There are plenty more kind of things that are peculiar to keeping animals, which I'm sure I will remember as soon as I stop streaming. But if anybody is wanting to get into animal keeping and isn't sure where to start, there is a lot of information on the wiki, but a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about isn't there, and there aren't really any guides on the forums that will tell you about it either. Maybe I should make one for things like how to care for a creature that somebody else has tamed, and about the sort of like the kind of distance at which animals will eat, and all of that kind of stuff is just stuff I've gleaned from keeping a lot of animals for a lot of years. So if anybody is excited about the idea of starting themselves a zoo or a wildlife park like this or anything like that, where they're going to be keeping creatures that don't graze, that require a little bit more management or that require taming, where they want to have alts caring for things in order to keep more creatures and stuff like that. If you're just starting out with that stuff and you've got questions, you're very, very welcome to message me in game. You could message me on Eshri. She is on quite a lot, but the safest one is to contact me on my main, which is Crimson Earth. I'm also on the forums under the same name, and I'm always very, very happy to help if anybody is wanting advice, or if there's something that's not working quite right and you're not sure why. You're very welcome to hit me up. I'm going to go and pop this donkey back before I forget. Felt like you've been watching a series of the Big Sea Does It's a hobby within a hobby. If Wurm is one of my special interests, then I suppose that keeping animals in Wurm is like a sub special interest. And I've been doing this kind of animal keeping for 4 or 5 years now in Wurm, and on quite a scale, as you can see. So I still don't know everything. I don't know many people who do, but as determined earlier, I learned something new earlier, and I've immediately forgotten what it was that I learned. Oh, it was about naming chicken eggs. But I do know quite a lot about it, and I've also learned from a lot of my own mistakes along the way in how not to manage animals. So I'm always very happy to share that knowledge on stream or by message or PM or whatever, if anybody is stuck and wants stuff. But it is a work night, and it's been a long day, so I think I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you all for coming and hanging out. Thank you for all of the... somehow all my horses end up being leather boots. Is that somehow because you are leather working 100, Willow, and no amount of leather is enough to appease you? Thank you, everybody, for the extra follows tonight. That should put me quite safely over the boundary, and this will be my seventh day in the 30-day window, which hopefully means I will get to do the whole applying for affiliate status on Twitch, which I'm sure does a bunch of other things, including monetization, which I'm not particularly bothered about. But what I am bothered about is getting channel points and doing fun things with them. Can't promise they will be here by next stream. I don't know how fast or slow the process is and how long it takes for me to figure out how to do that. But I will try and bring shiny channel point fun to a stream near you soon. Right, somewhere here I've got a nice cool down screen. Here we go. This is one of the markets that Ruffled and I visited just a couple of days ago. This is AO's Attic Market on Pristine. I picked this one for the cool down today because there were quite a lot of cool creatures there, including some interesting champs. So if you're looking to start a collection and you want to go and find somewhere to buy things, you could try that one. Also, there is a champion pheasant, which I feel like I must plug because it's been plugged several times, for sale in the Pools Closed market on release. And I know that Jake Rivers at Sanford and Sons, which is just outside of the Exeter start town, Esert, often has some champion creatures and some unusual things in his pens. Kazumi often has them in hers as well at Greenwood Market on release. She didn't have any when we went by the other day, but there are various markets that do have things like that. And the other one that's just occurred to me is Nomad's Market on Indy, on the south east side of Indy, that we went past on stream, went into and looked around on stream on Saturday, Ruffle and I. They also had quite a few champions in their pens, so there's some interesting things there too. But you can always ask around on the forums or in trade if you're interested in acquiring unusual creatures. And there will always be people breeding them and selling them, hopefully at a server near you. So I will see you all on Saturday, I guess, if I don't see you before in-game. Take care, everybody. And for those of you on my side of the world, get some sleep. It's a school night. I'll see you another time. Bye, guys.